In the midst of a grand royal ceremony, at the heart of a historic European capital, where every detail is meticulously orchestrated to reflect centuries of tradition, a little girl stood trembling among the crowd, her small frame dwarfed by the sea of onlookers gathered in the palace courtyard. It was a warm summer day in July 2025, and the annual ceremonial parade, an event attended by the royal family and broadcast to millions, was in full swing. The air buzzed with excitement, the cobblestone square adorned with banners fluttering in the breeze, the royal band playing a triumphant march. But for this girl, there was no joy in the spectacle. Her wide eyes darted frantically, filled with a quiet terror that seemed out of place amidst the celebration. A man loomed over her, his grip tight on her shoulder, his voice low and menacing as he hissed for her to stay quiet, his fingers digging into her skin with a force that left her wincing. Her face was pale, her body tense, and in a fleeting moment of courage, she cast a desperate glance outward, her tiny hand making a subtle, almost imperceptible gesture. A secret signal that would change everything. A small sign, a reckless act, but one that would unravel a dangerous truth and shatter the rigid traditions of the Royal Guard. Staff Sergeant Rodrik Vale stood among the ranks of the Royal Guard, his crimson uniform immaculate, his posture unwavering as he faced the crowd. At 28, Vale was a seasoned soldier, a veteran of conflict zones, where survival often hinged on split-second decisions. Born in a small village in the Scottish Highlands, Vale had grown up with a deep sense of duty, inspired by his father, a former soldier who had served in the British Army. As a teenager, Vale would listen to his father's stories of courage under fire, tales that ignited a fire in him to serve a greater cause. He enlisted at 18, serving in some of the most dangerous regions in the world, from the deserts of the Middle East to the jungles of Africa. Those experiences had honed his ability to read people like an open book, a skill that had saved his life and the lives of his comrades more times than he could count. Vale had a rare talent, an almost uncanny ability to interpret body language, noticing the smallest tells that betrayed fear, deception, or intent. It was a skill that had earned him respect among his peers, but also a heavy burden, as it often forced him to act when others hesitated. After 15 years in active combat, Vale had been honorably discharged and offered a prestigious role in the Royal Guard, a position that combined his military expertise with the ceremonial duties of protecting the monarchy. Now, stationed at the Royal Palace for the annual parade, his orders were clear: stand still, remain impassive, and uphold the centuries-old traditions of the Guard. The Royal Guard, with its origins dating back to the 15th century, was a symbol of discipline and honor. Their immobility during ceremonies, a testament to their unwavering loyalty to the crown. Vale had taken to the role with the same dedication he brought to the battlefield, but he often found himself at odds with the rigidity of the position. In Var, instinct had been his guide. Here, it was protocol. As the ceremony unfolded, the royal family appeared on the palace balcony, waving to the crowd as cheers erupted. Vale stood at attention, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd, a habit born of years in the field. Something caught his attention. A little girl, no older than 10, standing near the front of the crowd, just a few meters from his post. She was dressed oddly for the warm summer day, her long-sleeved dress too heavy, its dark fabric absorbing the heat. Her demeanor was off. She seemed withdrawn, her shoulders hunched, her face pale with fear. Beside her was a man in a dark coat, his hand gripping her shoulder with an intensity that made Vale's instincts flare. The man's movements were furtive, his eyes darting nervously as if expecting trouble, his posture too stiff to be that of a carefree parent. Vale's gaze lingered, picking up on the subtle signs that others might have missed. The girl didn't respond naturally when the man called her Sophie, her body tensing instead of relaxing at the name, her eyes flickering with unease. When a passerby accidentally bumped into her, her sleeve rode up slightly, revealing a faint bruise on her arm, a mark that spoke of something far darker than a simple accident. The man quickly pulled her sleeve down, his movements too deliberate, too practiced. as if he had something to hide. Vale's mind raced, piecing together the clues. This wasn't a father and daughter enjoying a day at the parade. This was something sinister, a predator hiding in plain sight. The man's behavior only deepened Vale's suspicions. The way he scanned the crowd, the way he kept the girl close, his hand never leaving her shoulder, as if he feared she might bolt. Vale noticed the man's other hand, which stayed close to his coat pocket, a telltale sign of someone carrying a weapon or something he didn't want seen. The ceremony continued, the royal band playing a triumphant march, the crowd clapping in rhythm, their cheers echoing through the courtyard. But for Vale, the music faded into the background. As he focused on the girl, she seemed to sense his gaze, her eyes meeting his for a brief, desperate moment. Then, in a split second, when the man's attention shifted to the passing royal carriage, she seized her chance. Her small hand moved with purpose, forming a fist, then opening it, her fingers brushing against the palm of her other hand, a deliberate, practiced gesture. Vale recognized it instantly. The international SOS signal for children in distress, a code taught in schools and community programs to help children silently ask for help. It was a silent cry for rescue, one that spoke louder than any scream. His heart pounded as the realization hit him. This was a plea for help, a child's last hope in the face of danger. Vale had only seconds to decide. His orders were clear. Remain still. Uphold the ceremony. Do not break formation under any circumstances. The Royal Guard was a symbol of discipline, their immobility, a tradition that dated back centuries, a visible sign of the monarchy's strength and stability. To move would be to defy protocol, to risk his career, his reputation, and the honor of his unit. He could already imagine the headlines. Royal Guard disgraces ceremony. Soldier breaks sacred tradition. But to do nothing would be to abandon a child in peril, to ignore the very instincts that had kept him alive through years of combat. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, each second ticking by like an eternity. He thought of his own niece, Emily, a girl not much older than the one before him. With her bright smile and boundless curiosity, the thought of Emily in danger, alone and afraid, fueled his resolve. He couldn't stand by, not this time. With a deep breath, Val made his choice. His polished boots struck the stone pavement with a sharp, echoing thud, a sound that cut through the music, and the crowd's cheers like a gunshot. Gasps rippled through the onlookers as he stepped forward, breaking rank in a way that had never been seen in the history of the Royal Guard. His fellow guards remained frozen, their faces a mix of shock and confusion, but Vale's focus was singular. He moved swiftly, his strides purposeful, his eyes locked on the girl and the man beside her. The crowd parted as he approached, their murmurs growing louder, a mix of curiosity and disbelief. The man noticed Vale's approach, his expression shifting from surprise to panic, his grip on the girl tightening as he realized the danger he was in. "Stay back," Vale commanded, his voice firm, cutting through the noise as he reached the pair. The girl's eyes widened with hope, but the man's other hand reached into his coat, a clear sign of danger. The man's hand emerged from his coat, a flash of steel catching the sunlight as he brandished a knife, his eyes wild with desperation. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, others frozen in shock as the scene unfolded in the heart of the royal courtyard. Vale's training kicked in, his body moving on instinct despite the cumbersome ceremonial uniform that restricted his movements. The heavy fabric and ornate decorations, a far cry from the tactical gear he was used to. The man lunged, aiming the blade at Vale's chest in a frantic attempt to escape. But Vale sidestepped with the agility of a seasoned soldier, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it hard. The knife clattered to the cobblestones, the sound sharp against the stunned silence of the onlookers. The girl, still trembling, ducked behind Vale, her small hands clutching the edge of his crimson tunic, as he shielded her from the threat. The man fought back with the ferocity of a cornered animal, throwing a punch that grazed Vale's jaw, the impact sending a jolt of pain through him. But Vale's years in combat gave him the upper hand. He drove his knee into the man's stomach, forcing the air from his lungs, then pinned him to the ground with a swift, practiced motion, his knee pressing into the man's back. "Stay down," Vale barked, his voice echoing with authority as he secured the man's wrists, using the ceremonial sash from his uniform to bind them tightly, the golden fabric now stained with dirt from the struggle. Within moments, other guards rushed forward, their initial shock giving way to action as they assisted in restraining the man, who was now shouting curses and struggling against his restraints, his face contorted with rage. The crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and murmurs, the tension breaking like a dam as the reality of what had just happened sank in. Vale turned to the girl, his expression softening as he knelt to her level, his voice gentle despite the chaos around them. "You're safe now," he said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Her tear-streaked face broke into a sob of relief, and she threw her arms around him, clinging to the soldier who had become her savior, her small body shaking as the fear finally gave way to safety. As the royal guards secured the scene, the girl's story began to unfold. Through her halting, tearful words, she revealed her true identity. Her name wasn't Sophie, but Lily Bennett, a 9-year-old who had been reported missing from her hometown 3 weeks earlier. Her disappearance had made local headlines in her small English town, her parents tirelessly searching for her, their pleas broadcast across news channels as they held up photos of their daughter, her bright smile a stark contrast to the terrified girl Vale had just rescued. The man who had held her captive was no stranger to law enforcement. He was a known criminal named Victor Hagen, a predator with an international record, wanted in multiple countries for crimes ranging from human trafficking to kidnapping. Hagen had evaded capture for years, using aliases and fake identities to slip through the cracks of justice. He had planned to use the chaos of the royal ceremony to move Lily across borders, disguising her as his daughter to avoid suspicion. His forged documents ready to ensure their passage. But Lily's courage, her knowledge of the SOS signal she had learned in a school safety program just months before her abduction, had foiled his plans. Her small act of defiance had caught the attention of the one person in the crowd capable of understanding her plea, and it had saved her life. Vale's actions, however, came with consequences. Breaking the royal guard's sacred protocol was no small matter, and he was immediately summoned to face an internal investigation. The hearing took place in a grand chamber within the palace, its walls lined with portraits of past monarchs, their stern gazes seeming to judge him as he stood before a panel of senior officers. The air was thick with tension as they questioned his decision to abandon his post, a breach of tradition that could have undermined the guard's reputation. Colonel Edmund Hargrove, a grizzled veteran with a reputation for upholding tradition, led the panel, his voice stern as he addressed Vale. "You were aware of the protocols, Sergeant Vale," he said, his tone clipped. "Your actions disrupted a royal ceremony, an event watched by millions. Explain yourself." Vale stood tall, his voice steady as he recounted the incident, his gaze unwavering. "I saw a child in distress," he said, his words clear and deliberate. "I saw the bruises on her arm, the fear in her eyes, the SOS signal she used to beg for help. My duty is to protect not just the crown, but the innocent. I would make the same choice again, even if it meant my career." The panel deliberated for hours, weighing tradition against the undeniable bravery of his actions, their voices echoing through the chamber as they debated the implications of his defiance. To everyone's surprise, the verdict was not a reprimand, but a commendation. The royal family, moved by Vale's heroism and the story of Lily's rescue, personally intervened. The queen herself, a mother of 3, had been in the palace during the parade, and had watched the events unfold on a live feed. She insisted that Vale's actions deserved recognition, not punishment. Instead of a disciplinary action, Vale was awarded a Medal of Honor, a rare distinction for a member of the Guard, one that had not been bestowed in over a decade. The ceremony was small but poignant, held in a private hall within the palace, with Lily and her parents in attendance, their gratitude evident in their tearful smiles as they watched Vale receive the honor. Lily's mother, Sarah Bennett, approached Vale after the ceremony, her voice trembling with emotion as she grasped his hand. "You gave us our daughter back," she said, tears streaming down her face. "We thought we'd lost her forever. Thank you." Lily, now dressed in a bright yellow dress that matched her smile, handed Vale a small drawing she had made, a picture of a knight in a red uniform saving a little girl. A child's heartfelt thank you to her hero. News of the incident spread like wildfire, capturing the hearts of people around the world. Vale's story became a symbol of courage, a testament to the power of instinct and compassion over rigid rules. Lily's reunion with her family was broadcast on international news. Her parents' emotional embrace, a moment that resonated with millions. Their story, a beacon of hope for families of missing children everywhere. Vale, though uncomfortable with the spotlight, became a quiet hero. His name synonymous with the kind of bravery that transcends protocol. Newspapers ran headlines like "Royal Guard Hero Saves Kidnapped Girl" and "The Soldier Who Broke Tradition to Save a Life," while social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like "Rodrik Vale Hero" and "Lily Bennett Rescue." Users sharing their own stories of courage and compassion. Schools and community organizations began using the incident as a teaching moment, emphasizing the importance of teaching children safety. Signals like the SOS gesture Lily had used, with many parents expressing gratitude for the reminder to educate their own kids. In the palace, Vale's actions sparked a quiet but significant change. Colonel Hargrove, initially skeptical of Vale's defiance, began to reconsider the Guard's strict protocols, advocating for new training programs that included situational awareness and child protection, ensuring that future guards could act swiftly in emergencies without fear of reprisal. The royal family, inspired by the incident, launched a public campaign to raise awareness about missing children, partnering with international organizations to support families like the Bennett. Their efforts funded in part by donations that poured in after the story went viral. In the end, this story leaves us with a powerful lesson. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest act of duty is to break the rules, to listen to the quiet voice of humanity above the clamor of tradition. It also shines a light on the importance of knowing the signs that can save a life. Lily's knowledge of the SOS signal, a simple gesture taught in a classroom, gave her the power to call for help when words failed her. Vale's ability to recognize that signal, born of years of experience and a heart that refused to ignore a child in need, turned that call into action. Do you know the SOS signal for children in distress? A closed fist, opened, then touching the other palm. Would you be ready to break the rules to save a life, just as Vale did? These are questions we should all ask ourselves, because in a moment of crisis, that knowledge, that courage, can make all the difference. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, pass it on. Let's spread awareness of this secret signal so that more children like Lily can find their way to safety, and more heroes like Vale can rise to answer their call. Together, we can create a world where no child's cry for help goes unheard, where compassion triumphs over convention, and where every life is worth breaking the rules to save.